Hey everyone, for this video I decided to draw in my sketchbook. I have a new sketchbook here, and whenever I'm going to draw on paper I haven't drawn before, I always try it out first just by doing some hatching with some different pencil grades, starting with the HB here, just to see how the graphite looks and how the paper feels. This paper is 140 GSM. It's not too thick, but just perfect for a sketchbook. So let's try out the 2B, and I'm using my favorite Faber-Castell 9000 pencils, and I usually use the HB, the 2B, 4B, 6B, and 8B. And then I have a blending stump and a mono 0. So this is just like a pencil eraser. You can also use a pencil eraser. And then a kneaded eraser and a regular eraser. So I'm just going to hatch the 2B. So I thought it's time for me to start drawing more often in a sketchbook, and I wanted to show you how I do this step by step. Maybe you can get inspired or motivated to draw more often too. Now the 4B. And the great thing about sketchbooks is that you can take off any pressure you might feel about starting a new drawing, but just drawing something, or maybe just doodle in your new sketchbook. Just practice the hand movement, just draw something, put pencil to paper. The 6B. So a sketchbook is great for practicing, so try to keep that in mind whenever you're drawing something. You either win or you learn. If you like how it turned out, that's great, but if you don't, then you might have learned something from it, and you can take that with you for the next drawings. So the only way you learn, that was the 6B, I have the 8B now here. And I'm always using light pressure when I draw something, when I hatch something, when I sketch, when I shade, always light pressure. So the only way you learn and improve is by doing. So try to draw as much as you can. I have the HB again here. Just draw something. If you really want to improve, the only way you will get better is by showing up and practicing. So I think this paper feels good. It's a good paper for a sketchbook. If you're going to buy a sketchbook for yourself, I would look for the thickness of the paper that it's around 140 GSM. That's fine enough. You can also buy a sketchbook that has thicker paper, but 140 GSM is fine. So you can doodle something, draw shapes, lines, whatever you feel like on the first page. I'm going to start, and I want to draw a face looking to the left, so the side view. And I want to show you how I start by using guidelines and go from there step by step so that you can draw this with me. I always sketch with the HB, and whenever I'm drawing sketch lines or guidelines, you always want to be sure that you keep them light. So I'm going to start by drawing a rectangle, and that's where I know that I'm going to draw the face. So you want to pay attention to the placement. Where on the paper are you going to draw? And whenever I draw a face, so if you're thinking about, oh, I need to draw a face, I'm going to draw an eye, oh, the other eye, now the nose, you might not get the proportions right, or you might draw one eye bigger than the other, or the nose too low, and then the mouth is again too low because the nose was already too low, and then so on. So what if you start by using simple guidelines? That way you can draw the eye on the guideline, the nose on the guideline, and then you know that you're drawing it correctly in proportion. So that is what helped me to draw in proportion and to draw the sketches. If you're hesitating, if it's I think it can be a bit longer. Like, it doesn't have to be a perfect square, but you can just measure the width and then compare it to the height. So this looks fine. You don't have to draw the whole square. You can just like draw the edges here, and then for the top and the bottom. Okay, so here's where I want to draw the face. And because the face is in side view, or has a side view, the facial features will be here at the left. And again, you want to make sure that your sketch lines are light enough, because you want to be able to erase them later. You don't want them showing up after you finish the drawing. So I'm trying to draw it dark enough so it can show, so you can see it on camera. But make sure you're using really light pressure whenever you're sketching, because if you make a mistake, if you draw the eye too big, for example, you want to be able to erase it and draw it again. So I'm going to start with a middle line. Yeah, I'm not sure what the width is. Just like a bit. So this here will be the area for the nose. So a middle line. You don't have to use rulers whenever you're drawing lines. So if you're having a hard time drawing a straight line at once, you see how I'm doing it. I'm drawing smaller strokes and just paying attention to each stroke, making sure I have a straight line. And you can look at the side of your paper to pay attention to if you're drawing it straight. And again, it doesn't have to be completely straight. Things in nature aren't like a perfect circle, a perfect square, a perfect straight line. Okay, so just a vertical line for the middle line. Now I want to divide the square in 3 equal sections. And you don't really have to do any measuring. If you have done any, I've created some videos about creating exercises. And with those exercises, you will train your eye to see distance and to look for train your eye to see distance. And this will help you whenever you're drawing and sketching. So if you're having a hard time doing this, like dividing this in 3 equal sections, it's best to practice this. And the way you can practice this and check this for yourself is by just simply using the tip of your pencil and your thumb and measure, just to check if it's correct. So if you see that one is too high, then just correct yourself. You will only learn by doing. If you make mistakes, correct yourself. That's how you improve. So 3 equal sections. And usually the average measurement for a face is has equal sections. So here would be the hairline, here would be the brow line, here will be the nose line, and here will be the chin line. If you're drawing a face that's looking to the front, side angle, these are the sketch lines or the guidelines you can always start with to make it easier for yourself. So here will be the nose, here will be the brow, and then around, again, 1/3 will be the eye line. So I'm also going to draw a guideline for the eye. You can draw a whole line, you can just draw, and you see how I'm drawing the line not all at once, but you see that how I'm really paying attention to that I'm drawing a straight line. Keep your lines light because you want to be able to erase this later. And if you're a beginner and you're having a hard time drawing confident lines like this, I would practice just drawing lines somewhere. Practice the hand movement. Your sketch lines need to look light and not with hard pressure. And it's also not best if you're drawing a line or a shape that you draw it all at once with hard pressure, and you could draw shaky lines like that. Sketch lines are always with smaller strokes, and that will get you, or that will help you to draw more confident sketch lines. Okay, I hope I'm not talking too much. I just want to show you everything step by step. And you could be a beginner or you could be more advanced. So you might, depending on which stage or level you're at on your journey. This is the brow line, this is the hairline. So let's draw the first eyebrow. Or let's sketch out where it's going to be. So here's the first brow, and here will be the eye. And if you're going to draw from a reference or look at my sketch, you can just try to compare things, like if I have this distance, so here's where the nose will end, to the middle line around that width is where I'm going to, is where like the corner of the eye will be. And the crease line will be up to here. So first I'm trying to like compare things, look for where I'm going to draw the eye before drawing the whole eye. First I want to draw the placements of everything, and then I can check and look at the sketch as a whole and then see if the nose looks on the correct place. Okay, let's focus on the nose first. So if I have this, the middle line, I want to take like around half. That's where I want to draw. And then the tip of the nose should be a bit higher. Around, so on the eye line. So you see the nose. I'm actually going to zoom in a bit so maybe you can see this better, because the sketch lines are usually light, but I'm trying to keep it dark enough so that it's visible. So this is the forehead. And remember, this is just about drawing something. At first you want to draw like the eyes, the nose, and the mouth, but remember this, you always have an eraser. You can always correct yourself, so try not to be, try not to put too much pressure on yourself, like, oh, this has to go right in one go. Just put down something and then you can compare it to other things and then see if it looks right or if it doesn't, and then you can try again. So keep that in mind whenever you're drawing something. Try not to put too much pressure on yourself. You're not a computer. You're just you're trying to try to enjoy yourself when you're drawing something. The nostril. So if I look at this line, this is down from here is the mouth. If I go up, you don't want the forehead to go further than that. And then here's where the eyebrow is. The other eyebrow, so you don't see that much. You only see the edge here. And then just a bit of the other eye. And usually the forehead is a bit, it's curved a bit. I usually use a brush to brush away eraser crumbs. Just because you're not sure if your hand might be dirty, you don't want to wipe onto your drawing, even though this is a sketchbook. So you see how the forehead curves a bit. And let's go down to the mouth or the chin first. Let's see the chin. And then, so the chin is around, so from the forehead down. I'm actually going to look at the ear because this is the side view. The ear is all the way here. And then usually the lower part of the ear is on the nose line, but depending on the angle the person is looking, so maybe the person is looking up a bit, so then the eye line will be a bit higher than the ear. If the person is looking straight, so the photographer takes a photo exactly at the eye line, then usually the ear is all the way up to the brow, but depending on the angle, the ear can also be on the eye line. So here's the eye line, draw a bit higher than the eye line and a bit lower than the nose line. And again, just try to draw something, try not to think too much. After you put everything down, then you can try to compare it to my sketch and see if you have everything correct. Otherwise you can just erase something and try again. This is where the hairline is, but usually the head is way higher, depending on how high the hair is. Depending on the reference photo you're going to draw, look at the shape of the eyebrow you see. Is it curved a lot? Is it more straight? You see I'm drawing it curved. Now let's look at the eye. So the eye from a side view. And if you haven't drawn eyes separately, I would practice drawing just a single eye at all kinds of different angles, just so that you know how to draw an eye from every angle or at every angle. It can be very different than drawing an eye from a front view, side view, three-quarter view. So from the side view you see the iris isn't round but more like an oval shape. Let's see if we have the crease line, and we have the eyelash, or the upper eyelid, and the lower eyelid. Remember, the sketch lines can look funny at first, but just draw something, look at the placement, and then we can go from there. And then maybe I'm drawing the eye now, and I think, okay, that looks fine, but then I move on to the mouth, and then I look at everything as a whole, and then I think, it looks a bit too wide, or maybe a bit too high somewhere. So again, just draw something and check later. The crease line curves down until the eye corner here. Then you have the pupil, and usually you see a highlight. And then the lashes from the side. Some wrinkles under the eye. And this part looks a bit too low. I'm drawing it a bit higher. Okay, for now I'm going to leave the eye and then come back to it later. Move on to the mouth. So usually from the nose to the chin line, the mouth is like around 1/3 or a bit lower or higher depending on which reference photo you're drawing. And then look at the corner of the mouth. If it's like straight or lower or higher depending on the person. Is it smiling? Then usually the mouth corners are higher. Is the person just relaxing the mouth? And then usually the upper lip sticks more out than the lower lip. And there's a shadow under the lower lip. Okay, I think this that's it from the nostril down. I think the lip can be a bit further. Just a bit. Okay, I'm going to move on. So again, if you're not sure about an area, move on to another area and we can compare and look at it all at once. So the other eyelash. And I'm looking at the ear, the inside of the ear. And then here the hair, because it's a girl. Not sure if I mentioned that already. I'm drawing a girl from the side view. So the hair is down and then tucked behind the ear here. And then here's some hair to the front, and then it goes over the ear. But I think I want to remove the guidelines and then check everything. Okay, when I'm at this stage and I'm not sure if how everything looks, then I either take a short break to come back with fresh eyes, or I just stand up and look at my drawing just from a further distance, just to see everything. Because when you're drawing each feature, you're focusing on each small step. So if you stand up, look at it from a different distance, you can see everything better and see if it looks good in proportion. So then you can continue and see if everything is fine or if you need to correct something. And it looks like I have the tip of the nose. The nose looks a bit too far. If I compare it to everything, the nose looked a bit too big. I think this looks better. And I also think the eye still looks too big. So I'm going to draw the corner a bit more. Just look and see what looks right or what looks a bit off. I think the eyebrow is also a bit too far. So remember, it's again, it's not about getting the proportions and the sketch right at one go. This is all about tweaking, correcting, erasing, and seeing what looks right. And if you're having a hard time with this drawing, remember, just keep on going, and then you will learn in the end. When you look at your drawing, you see, okay, maybe I should have drawn that different, or I see it now, I didn't see it before. So then you will learn from that. If you don't make mistakes, you can't improve yourself. So that's why it's important to just draw something and practice and go from there. And try not to be afraid to make mistakes, like, oh, I should be better than this. I'm already drawing for a certain amount of time. I should already be better. I should already like master this drawing, and I shouldn't make mistakes. That's not it. Often you see the finished drawing of an artist, and you look at that and you think, why am I not there at that level? But you don't know how long that drawing took that artist, or you don't know. Yeah, you don't know. So try not to compare yourself to others, just to yourself, and just try to keep on going and practicing. Look at the angle of the ear. Maybe a bit more, a bit lower. So I'm going to erase this guideline, this. Remember, the sketch outline can look funny. We're going to soften some edges and blend somewhere. I think I'm going to erase most of the guidelines now, or all of them. So I usually erase the bigger lines with the regular eraser, and then here the smaller areas with the stick eraser. Here by the eye. Okay, so now once you have the sketch ready and you're satisfied with the proportions, you can move on to each feature and focus on it and try to draw it a bit more, try to define the sketch a bit more. And I'm going to move on to the 2B, just to darken some areas, like the nostril. And the pupil. Actually, I'm going to switch back to the HB and add a bit of shading. In some areas. Make sure you do that with light pressure, and then you can leave this like a sketched, yeah, you can shade it to make it look more realistic. You can draw this with a sketched style, whatever you prefer. So how do you make drawing look more realistic and 3D is by paying attention to the values. The values are the highlights, midtones, and shadows. So the lights and the darks need to be good, need to be correct. And with a sketch, you don't have to get really dark and get everything smooth, as long as you pay attention to where do you see shadows on the face. Like here, I'm adding a shadow under the eyebrow. So pay attention to any shadows. And also the inside of the, like the eyeball white of the eye is never perfectly white. It's also shaded a bit. It has a lighter value. Whenever I shade, I start with light pressure, even though somewhere it should be darker. I start light and add layers, go from there, because it's easier to go darker, go over a layer, than noticing, oh, I went too dark somewhere, I need to erase now, or lighten it, I need to correct it. The wrinkles under the eyes aren't that dark. Try to draw it subtle. Let's add some shading to the nose. And around the nostril. So you can add some really light shading, and then you can use the blending stump or maybe a soft tissue to soften and blend it if you like, or you can just keep this like sketched look and don't blend. Adding a bit of shadow here. Usually the top lip is in shadow, and then on the lower lip you usually see some highlights. So adding these values to the face will make it look a bit more realistic instead of just having these sketch outlines. Remember, you don't want outlines. A face has edges, so try to soften everything. Here's a shadow around the corner. This can change how someone looks. Is someone smiling, or does someone have a dimple on the cheek? This can all change how someone looks. So pay attention to every detail if you're going to draw from a reference photo. Here the jawline, usually in shadow, the neck. You see that I'm holding my pencil a bit more to the back whenever I shade. Drawing the shirt. And then some of the hair. Let's see, I'm going to add some shading on the side of the forehead. Here. And here just a bit. And then the cheek. So you see that if you hold your pencil more to the back, you can use the side of the pencil lead, which can give you a smoother result when adding graphite. You can add another layer if you want to darken. Add layers gradually. And darken here for the jawline and the neck. So I'm going to use the soft tissue, and I want to soften this first layer just a bit. I like to make everything look just a bit softer. You don't have to smoothen everything out. I just like to make it look a bit soft. And when I draw, I'm going to look at the ear. When I draw realistic portraits, I blend every layer, make sure everything looks soft, and I have smooth transitions. You don't want any outlines. So think of the ear as if it's like a shape, and then draw those swirls. Doesn't have to be, if you draw an eye too big, or nose and ear, well, the biggest shape should be like a bit correct, but the inside of the ear doesn't really matter. Don't think you will really look like at someone's ear and then say, hey, that part isn't correct. So here I'm going to draw some hair going over the ear. And then when you draw hair, try to think of it as, also like shapes. Some shapes you see. Try not to draw each individual hair stroke, but like different sections, and pay attention to how the hair flows. Also try not to draw hair too neat, but a bit more messy, because hair flows. Just pay attention to the direction you see it goes. Here the hair is going to the right and then down. Now, because I smoothened everything, I'm actually going to use the blending stump and smoothen here for the ear. So now that I went over this whole layer with the soft tissue, everything gets a bit lighter. And I'm going to go over it again. I'm still using the HB pencil. You can also use the 2B. Draw it a bit darker. For the eye, I'm going to switch to the 2B. The pupil is dark. And then when I'm drawing realistic drawings, I want to get really dark. So then I even use the black colored pencil for the darkest values. For the sketches, I don't really go darker than the 4B. So I use the 2B and then might use the 4B to darken somewhere a bit. I'm drawing the eyelashes. Because for the drawings in my sketchbook, I just like to focus on the sketching and the drawing, practice with the proportions of drawing something. So now I'm going over everything to darken a bit. Lower lash line. So you see that the more you darken, it already starts to look better. And depending on the look you're going for, you can continue to add layers. Try to blend. If you want to go for a soft, realistic look, try to blend in between each layer. The inside of the mouth is usually darker, so make sure to darken that. The lip turned out a bit too thick here. I'm correcting that. So you can still correct. You can still check proportions and see if you need to correct somewhere. Because you build up the layers with light pressure. And that's why I always darken at last. And build layers gradually, darken gradually. Jawline is a bit, so the shadow here in the neck, the jawline. And then using the 2B to add shading to the cheek again. The only thing with a sketchbook is that it's thicker than a paper, so you can't really place your hand on the table. But you can always just rest your hand on your arm if you want to, if you need to rest your hand more. I just place it on the sketchbook here. So I'm just going over the shadows I already created, darken them a bit, and smooth again. So each time you smooth, you go over with the soft tissue, you could lighten it. So that's when you want to go over it again if you need to, or just leave it. And then now when you shade over everything, you might lose some highlights. So that's when I use the kneaded eraser. And then I go back and just mold the eraser into any shape. I also want to go soften this edge of the nose because it is in an outline. The tip of the forehead is usually softer, lighter. And then here and the top of the cheek. Or the, what's this, the side, the part under the eye. And then I just bring back some highlights bring back some highlights like that. Use the smaller blending stump for smaller areas. And also if you have some hard edges from the eraser, soften a bit by going over it with the soft tissue. Blend the lower lip. And then use the eraser. Need to bring back some highlights. By blending, you make everything look a bit softer. Okay, so I'm going to use the 4B now. I want to darken the lashes. Make the eyes pop a bit more. The pupil. and the 2B. I went a bit too low for the pupil. I'm going to correct that. And blend. So using the 4B for the nostril as well, and for the inside of the mouth. And then you can blend using the 2B. So when you're at this stage, you can take another short break if you like, or step away for a while, come back to your drawing with fresh eyes. And I also never call a drawing finished the same day, so I even look at it back at it tomorrow or the next day to see if I'm really satisfied, because you might see something you didn't see now. You might be focusing on different things now. When you look at it with fresh eyes, you might notice something. So try not to give yourself deadlines, just come back to your drawing another time. Adding a highlight to the eyeball white. And also try to enjoy yourself while you're drawing. Of course, that's all what matters. Why are you drawing? Because you enjoy yourself, because you like to draw, you like to create. Blend. So we're going to darken the cheek here just a bit. And the jawline again, because that should be a bit darker. And then I usually like to keep the hair a bit more like sketched, a bit unfinished. Like to keep the focus on the face. But you can continue and draw the hair a bit more if you like. Let's blend this first. And this is the 2B. Adding some dark shading here behind the ear. Okay, so I could continue this video, or I could continue this drawing, but I don't want this video to turn out too long. This is how you see how I started a sketch with guidelines, and that helped me to draw the correct proportions. Back to the, blend this. Because if you're starting with the wrong proportions, and then you just focus on shading and details, your drawing won't look right. Your details and the shading, it can't fix a drawing. You need to start right. The foundation needs to be good before you build from there. So the first thing is you need to focus on the sketch, make sure that you have the proportions right. What always helps me is using guidelines. Pay attention to your sketch throughout the drawing. And remember, you can always use an eraser. So draw something, start somewhere, and then pay attention to how the overall sketch looks. Do the proportions look correct? How does the nose look in comparison to the eye? Isn't something too big somewhere? Just lightened the tip of the nose a bit. And then after you have the sketch correct and you're satisfied with the proportions, you can go from there and then add shading to make the drawing look a bit 3D. Can darken here even more. Bring that neck back to more to the back by adding darks. You bring more to the back, and with highlights you bring more to the front. That's how you create something round. So making the cheek look round, add darker shading to bring that area to the back, and then highlight to bring the other area more to the front. Some extra hair strokes, some loose hair strokes. Okay, I'm going to call this drawing finished. I'm satisfied with how this looks overall. I'm satisfied with how the proportions turned out, and I hope you were able to draw along with me. And remember, this is just a sketch for in your sketchbook. So if you look back at your drawing and you're not as satisfied, remember that you can only get better from here. So try to look at your drawing and see what you're not satisfied with, and think about what went wrong, what went good, learn from that, move on to the next, put a date. And then the further you, or the more you continue, I'm pretty sure that once you look back at your first drawings or your previous drawings, you will already notice improvement as long as you keep on going. Okay, I just keep seeing things I can continue. I drew this in less than an hour. If I draw a realistic portrait, I draw for maybe in total like 4 hours. So you can tell the difference. But I really enjoyed drawing a sketch version in the sketchbook because there's no pressure. You can practice proportion, you can practice sketching, and it's always good to keep on drawing, just drawing something. And sometimes when you're drawing for a longer time, you don't always know what to draw, or you could maybe put pressure on yourself that doesn't even want you to start a drawing. So I hope I could inspire you with this video, that you're going to try this out for yourself. I also hope this video was helpful, that you learned something from it. And maybe you can let me know if you have any ideas for more sketchbook drawings, and then we can do this together. And I'll see you in one of the next videos.
Under these lucid dreams, I'm not thinking off my head, yeah.